Hello everybody and welcome to Pravus Gaming and more Democracy 3 Africa. Y'all knew I was going to have to pick up this game again pretty soon. I mean, I've been getting a lot of requests, and I mean a lot of requests for me to pick this game back up, and of course I will oblige. And I'm happy to do so because I had a lot of fun playing this game last time. So I do have a lot to cover in this video though. It's going to be very long, so I'm going to skip a very long intro. I'll just tell you guys that these are, again, the two expansion packs I am using, but not clones and drones. And if you are not familiar with the changes in Democracy 3 Africa, then I strongly recommend you stop watching this video and go and watch my Ghana series. I will have laid it all out a lot better in that series than I will now, and it was a very fun and successful playthrough. And then you can come and take a look at this. Alright, so as far as which nation we are going to be playing, the requests have been coming through for Egypt for some reason. It appears that everybody thinks that Egypt is the hardest nation in the game. Maybe you're right, maybe you're not. I don't really know much about Egypt in this game. I know that it has a few nasty events. I know that it is exceptionally corrupt and in a lot of debt. So, you know, maybe this is going to be terrible, or who knows. We're going to find out. But let's play as Egypt. We are not going to change the party names. I really don't think I care that much. You know, in Democracy 3, I might make up some funny little quips here and there, but for this, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't impact the game at all. Term limit starts off at 2, and the term length starts off at 4. Well, that's fine, but odds are pretty good we are going to end up changing this, and that is because we are going to be going for a theocratic dictatorship in this particular playthrough. Is that going to work? I have no idea. I can think of a few pitfalls, but we're going to try. Welcome to your new job as the president. The life of all 84 million citizens are now in your hands. Blah, 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 blah. We have a terrible GDP. Health is non-existent. Education is abysmal. Unemployment is very high. Crime is actually shockingly low. I suspect there are reasons for that. Reasons we may not like. Poverty is also quite high. All right, well, let's begin the game. Alright, so to start us off, we see we have quite a few unpleasant events to worry about. First off, our old friends, the uncompetitive economy, and the skills shortage. Yes, those do suck, don't they? Also pollution. Also female genital mutilation. A little bit horrifying. Also homelessness. And a couple of new ones over here. It seems we have border tensions. There is tension at the country's borders due to a combination of ideological differences with neighboring nations, cross-border economic disparity, and historical disputes over the delineation of territories. You're talking about Israel, aren't you? Probably. We also have foreign intelligence interference. We have enemy nations conducting intelligence operations in our country and exerting their influence, which is causing some problems. Big reason for that is because our stability is absolutely awful. And this is how we measure the overall stability of our country. Let's see here. How stable the incumbent regime is in the nation, taking into account a broad range of indicators to assess the risk of collapse. Yeah, a lot of bad things happen when you have terrible stability. That's going to be a high priority for us. We also have religious persecution of minority religions. We have military interference. In part because the because the stability is so low, the military has stepped in and is essentially propping up the current regime. Which is interesting, isn't it? We also have a civil uprising. That's really bad. Why? Because our democracy is non-existent. We do not have a democracy in Egypt. It is a democracy in name only. We are dictators, and we're going to keep it that way if we can. Asthma epidemic, nothing new, obesity, and a couple of infrastructure-related events. Again, we've seen those before. We also have oil wealth. We have a natural wonder. Tourists come to visit one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. Oh, cool. All right, well, if we have a really bad environment, presumably this goes away, and that would suck. This is giving us quite a bit of tourism. We also have an ancient wonder, the pyramids. That is also giving us some tourism, which is impacting our economy quite a bit. So that's going to be relevant to us, but let's see what else we can do. Now, one thing you should note right away is we have a ton of political capital. Absolutely a ton. Why? Well, that's because something we didn't really get to explore in Ghana, but something we will definitely note in Egypt, is that political capital generation is a little bit different in Democracy 3 Africa. the more centralized your government is around a dictator or just a single leader, the more political capital I will be generating per turn. Not just my cabinet, me, myself. Right now, I believe we are generating 60 political capital per turn on top of the 30 that our cabinet will be producing every turn. And that's because we are such a dictator. So the more democratic we become, the less political capital we will be generating. But, of course, there's the trade-offs of not being very democratic. You know, having a dictatorship does tend to cause a few different issues. For example, we're not getting a lot of foreign aid or investment right now. Stability is a little bit bad. And the fact that there is zero democracy means that the citizens are rising up and causing plenty of issues. And that's having a wide range of effects on the GDP, our foreign relations, international trade, and everyone's unhappy. So yeah, there are definite downsides to being a dictator, but there are definite pluses as well. Things we need to consider. All right. So, this video is going to be a little bit long because I have a ton of things I need to do. I did a little bit of practicing with Egypt to kind of give myself an idea what I might want to do over the first few turns, kind of list out some priorities. And one of the first things that I feel like I need to do, while I have a ton of political capital, is get some money. Because right now we are running a pretty serious deficit, and we have almost $2 trillion in debt. That is a lot of debt for Egypt. We are heading straight into a debt crisis. So we need to raise more money. Best thing to do? Taxes. You know I don't like taxes in this game. I don't touch them very often, but every once in a while, it's a necessary evil. We don't have a petrol tax in Egypt right now, and y'all know that I'm a big fan of said petrol tax as a revenue generator, so let's go ahead and pick that up. Now, of course, 42% is what I have decided is about the optimal location, because it has practically no impact on the GDP. A small usage effect on motorists and such and makes them unhappy, but ultimately it'll raise us $43.5 billion per quarter. That erases the problem of like half of our debt, right there, half our deficit, I should say. So we'll go ahead and pick that up. On the same token, we are going to increase the income tax. And a good way to do that, I don't know if I want to go very high. I mean, good lord. You make it too high and the middle income people, you know, the people in the middle class just get really, really upset. Which is interesting. I'm not really sure why the middle income is disproportionately upset by the income tax as opposed to the wealthy, because presumably the income tax in this game is supposed to be progressive. You'd think, I mean, we can verify this. The higher this goes up, the more, the high earnings pay more taxes. You would think then, that the wealthy would be a lot more upset than they are, but until you get to about 50-something%, they don't seem to care much. We're not going to go that high, though. We're going to go to about 35%, I think. That will generate quite a bit more money, another 40 to 50, I think, ish, billion. I guess, what is this? This is the pound, isn't it? They have pounds. Is that actually the currency? In Egypt? I would be surprised if so. Huh. Well, what do you know? Alright. Well, we've already spent most of our political capital, and that's one of the reasons I did this first, because those are very expensive procedures. But we are going to move on to a few different things. Now, we already know that our unemployment is really quite bad, poverty is really quite bad, and a lot of those things are going to be contributing toward our stability, which is probably the one thing I am the most worried about right now. The fact that we have low democracy is going to be contributing to that no matter what. But you can see that our stability is increasing the military interference and civil uprising. If we are to stabilize the country, even though we're a dictator, things will get better. Corruption is also a factor, violent crime is a factor, bad education and health, bad GDP, and so on. Poverty is definitely a factor, and so on and so forth. All things we need to deal with. One of the best things we can do as far as distributing some of the money we just took through taxes to the poor will be through the form of food stamps. Big fan of the food stamps. Not so much in real life, but very much so in the game. You can see, if we max this out, 5.9 billion? It's a drop in the bucket compared to like the 100 billion we're about to raise. Health goes up, poor earnings goes up, the poor are happy, poverty goes down, everyone else across the board gets happy, equality goes up. This is good. This is a good thing to have. I like it, so let's focus on that. Other things we can do. Well, I'm a little bit worried about getting assassinated, and liberals and women are definitely going to be a threat to me. One thing I can definitely do to make the women happier, well, of course we want to improve gender inequality, but I'm not sure that's going to happen, simply because we are going to have a ton of conservatives and religious in this game. No doubt about it. So instead, I think I will focus on this female genital mutilation as one of the things we can do to try and improve things. If we can get rid of this, women will be happier, liberals will be happier, and health will go up. So I think that's a fine thing. Let's go to welfare. Female genital mutilation ban, and let's max that out. So that should pretty much go away, more or less. Women will be very happy by this, so will liberals, and conservatives a little less happy, but again, these are the two groups that are most likely going to assassinate me, so if I have to upset a little bit of conservatives in order to live longer, I think that's a worthwhile trade. Alright, let's move on to the next turn. I do apologize, by the way, if I am moving very fast. Part of that is because I am expecting this video to be quite long, because we have a ton to do, so if I'm going too fast, again, you know, I mean, referring to my Ghana series will explain a lot of this stuff, so do that if you have to, but, you know, try to keep up. Animal export facility attacked. A facility that exports native animals for use as clinical test subjects has been attacked. This event has precipitated from the bad sentiment toward industries that exploit our natural resources for profit. I suspect this is going to be an environmentalist thing versus what? If the public truly wants to curtail the exploitation of our natural resources in order to protect them, then there are democratic ways to achieve this. It definitely seems like this is an environmentalist thing versus what? Democracy? I'm not sure. We're going to allow the continued exports because I'm not sure if that's going to impact our natural wonder. It doesn't appear to. No. Also, Ancient Wonder, by the way, does not go away, like, ever. There are no causes to affect this, so... Unless there's, like, an event from terrible instability where people, like, crush the pyramids, tear it apart in a riot. Oh, that'd be horrifying. Alright, so last time we did pass the food stamps. This time we are going to be doing something similar with, free school meals. This is basically the cousin, the cheaper cousin of food stamps, and it works equally well. If we max that out, obesity goes down, which is an epidemic in the country. Poor earnings goes up, poverty goes way down, so on and so forth. This is all very good for us. And we can see here that poverty is going down. That's good. A lot of things are affecting that, so hopefully we can make this go down to pretty much zero. But this is affecting, let's see, racial tension, alcohol consumption, foreign aid, stability, population growth, homelessness, and so on. Yeah, in fact, our poverty is high enough that it is contributing to the homelessness. So if we are able to get rid of poverty, then in theory, this event will go away, which will be quite good for us. The poor will be significantly happier as well. A lot of good things to do from that. All right. We have a very, very small surplus. I feel like I need more. Taxes. Well, I don't want an airline tax or a car tax. Well, maybe a car tax later. Not yet, though. A flat income tax would generate some money, but I'm not sure it's a good idea quite yet. Eventually, maybe. Inheritance tax, I hate. Internet tax. Plastic bag taxes. And some punitive taxes. I think the least harmful solution will actually be a carbon tax in this case. Yeah, the tax is effectively a pollution tax and a way to make those individuals and industries who contribute to climate change pay for the damage they cause or to reduce emissions. Alright, good. We do not want it to be this high, though. This is going to have a very negative impact on the GDP. The higher the carbon tax, of course, the more restricted our businesses are going to be, and a lot of people will simply leave. So, we don't want it to be very high. Just high enough that we can make some money. Just like 30 billion or something. Can I get like 35? 35. Yeah, there you go. 15%, that's not too bad. The GDP doesn't take very much of a hit. 0.87% is not a lot. Air travel, nobody likes this, of course, which is hilarious. Everyone likes it. The dislikes it. The environmentalists do like it, but this number is kind of reduced a little bit just automatically by the fact that everyone in the environmentalist group also counts as, well, everyone. So this gain of 9.92% is actually somewhere closer to 5. Ooh, I hear a thunderstorm outside. If you hear any rumbling, that's what that is. All right, effects from this carbon tax are otherwise relatively minor. Aside from upsetting people, I think we will do that. That'll get us an extra £36.1 billion per quarter, which is going to be good for us. Anything to work toward paying off a bit of debt so we can improve our credit rating overall. You know what? Along those lines, let's go ahead and make some early game investments into the economy, things that will take a while to take full effect. You guys know that I am a fan of some of the capitalist economy and policies and tax policies. I will say right now, I do not care what the overall socialist and capitalist membership is in this game. We are not concerned about that. The only thing I'm going to be concerned about at the end of this game is going to be religious membership, because we are going to go for a theocracy if we can. Theocratic dictatorship. To the same extent, I don't actually care that much if conservatives or liberals are predominant, but I suspect if we're going religious, odds are pretty good the conservatives will be far more palatable to us, so... yeah, let's go ahead and just commit to this. We're going to go for conservative religious with a dictatorship. But we do not care about capitalists or socialists. I will do whatever pragmatic economic policy is required in order to make this work. So, let's go to the economy, and let's do things like the rural development grants. One of the best policies in the game, not even that expensive. Pick it up. GDP will go up by about 5%. Not bad. Unemployment also goes down, which is going to be critical for us, in fact, as far as combating homelessness and poverty and so on. Poor earnings goes up, equality goes up, the rural people are much, much happier. About half the population should be rural. And agricultural efficiency. If you don't remember what that does, good for you, because I don't really remember either. Let's take a look. The agricultural methods used in your country, the general level of investment in the sector. Less people employed in agriculture, but there'll be less strain on the environment for the same yield. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, basically this is going to change some environmental stuff. Urbanization and so on, how many people live in the rural area, you know, blah, blah, blah. Pretty standard stuff. All right. The other thing that I love to do, and it is a capitalist policy, but it does tend to work really well, and that is the Enterprise Investment Scheme. Again, relatively cheap, but really good benefits. If we pick this up, socialism membership goes way down. All right, fine. I'm all right with that. The self-employed will be thrilled, and the GDP will go up by 4.94%. Not too bad. The wealthy will become wealthier. But, you know what, that's fine with me. Let's go ahead and pass that, see if we can't improve the GDP. Because ultimately, the GDP is also having an effect on our stability. You know, it's kind of like what President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden and Secretary of State John Kerry have been saying. Yeah, see, I know my people. They keep saying, you know, in the Middle East and all this stuff, the reason that people are all upset and there's civil unrest and not democracy is because there aren't jobs and there's not a strong economy. To an extent, that is true, and we are going to be trying to impact that positively. We only have 9 political capital left, though. What else would impact our stability here? Well, the first thing that catches my eye is corruption, which is pretty high. We really should pass some policies that are going to reduce our corruption. It'll upset some people, no doubt about it, but that will improve things overall. Yeah. All right, what can we do on that front? Law and order? I don't think I want to pass freedom of information because I think that might increase liberalism membership or something like that. The government code of conduct isn't a terrible idea. It's pretty cheap overall. Yeah, alright. So we're going to pass this. Liberals will be happy. State employees, not so much because there is a lot of red tape for them to deal with in their government jobs, but corruption will go down quite a bit. 17.42% is a lot. Yeah, we'll give that a shot. That seems pretty reasonable. And let's move on to the next turn. Public smoking ban. We're going to go ahead and ban public smoking because we do have a lot of health issues in Egypt, and I want to improve that a little bit. The global economy is doing well, and that is very fortunate for us because if the global economy was in a recession, I'm pretty sure we would be sunk. So, all right. Let's go ahead and go for that. 91 political capital to spend right now. Good lord. Being a dictator is awesome. Don't take that out of context. All right, other things we can do. We have a surplus. I still want to keep generating money. What's our primary expenditure? State pensions, actually. Okay, state pensions aren't actually necessary. We can get rid of this. Let's go ahead and minimize it. I don't want to cancel it because it's way too expensive, but lowering it alone should save us somewhere on the order of 30 billion pounds per quarter. The elderly will not be quite so happy. Understandably so. But capitalists will be happier. Poverty will... what? Oh, poverty does go up. Okay, I'm sorry, I was misreading that. Yes, poverty does go up, which is unfortunate, but it will save us a lot of money. Also, equality goes down. Private pensions, however, start to become more of a thing in this sector, so that is fine. Socialism membership, not really relevant. I don't know if I care about pointing that out every time anymore, but, you know, it used to be very important in these playthroughs. We'd always go for one particular economic ideology, but in this game, not so much. I find that very freeing. All right, civil unrest. Civil unrest. You are a problem for me. The abysmal democracy is going to make this almost impossible to counteract. We're going to have to... there's a couple ways we could do this. If we want to get rid of civil uprising, right, we could start trending toward a proper democracy, which would come with its downsides and its pluses. Would also make sure we generate less political capital, so that's not as fun. Or, alternatively, we could crack down hard on the uprisings. Lots of police, ID cards, torture, corporal punishment, blah, blah, blah. Lots of terrible stuff. Forget human rights. Human rights be damned. That is one way to do things, and that's kind of the more dictator path, isn't it? Still, I'm not sure I want to rattle the cage too much, but there are some things we can do that will have some positive effects. For example, if we are to increase police spending, first off, unemployment goes down a little. Not bad. State employees and conservatives like it. Liberals don't mind. Corruption goes down, which is another plus. Crime, of course, goes down. And the civil uprising goes down a little bit more. This one is a little on the expensive side, £5 billion, but I think it's worth it. And this is perhaps one of the least offensive ways that we can try to deal with the civil uprising. So we'll go ahead and do that. In fact, along similar lines, I'm actually going to go ahead and up our intelligence services. Now, this is a little bit more controversial, and this does not impact the civil uprising, but it does impact the foreign intelligence interference. But one of the reasons we're going to pick this up early is because I am a little bit worried about getting assassinated, and this should give me some level of protection. So we'll go ahead and spend a little bit of our money, a little bit of our surplus, to try and improve our intelligence services. All right. Women, how you doing? You're a teeny bit happier, and the female genital mutilation thing is doing its job. You are joining radicalized groups, though, which is not so good. This should more or less go away, right? As the ban takes more effect, they'll be happy, but also this will go away, which by default will make them happier as well. Gender inequality, I don't think there's much we can do about, though. I really don't. I think this is kind of inevitably going to stay here. Still, we'll see. We will see. I can improve their lot in life a little bit, though, because women is probably the most dangerous group out there. We probably should pass some extra protections and representation for women. For example, yes, here we go, okay. Under welfare, we see the gender representation measures. So, women do comprise half the country, but they are underrepresented in government where gender inequality exists. We can counteract that directly. Now, I suspect this is going to make conservatives and religious unhappy. Let's find out. Conservatives, yes. Religious, surprisingly, no. But if we go ahead and max this out, it's not going to cost us a lot of money. We have equal representation, which basically means, like, affirmative action in our governmental body, but... you know, oh well. Gender inequality goes down. Maybe eventually this will have an effect. Democracy goes up. That will impact, unfortunately, our political capital. But I think in the short term, getting a little bit of democracy to increase our stability and get rid of the civil unrest might actually be an okay thing. I'm not going to focus too hard on it, but a little bit might help. Women will like this. Liberals will like this. Less likely to get murdered. I am all for that. In fact, along similar lines, if I go to Law and Order, there is a Gender Discrimination Act. Perfect. Very similar. Gender inequality goes down. Women and liberals, much happier. Conservatives, very unhappy. But democracy will go up again, affecting our political capital generation, but I think it will be worth it in the long run. Okay. Gosh, I've been talking like non-stop. My throat is starting to crap out on me here. Okay. Okay, so if there's anything we learned from Ghana, there is one other stat, besides like stability and democracy and stuff like that, one other stat you really have to pay attention to is education. And in Egypt, our education is really, really quite bad. This is leading to terrible gender inequality. This is leading to a few other things, including skill shortages and obesity and so on. Productivity goes down, racial tension goes up, blah, blah, blah. There are a few things we can do to counteract that. A lot of them are very, very expensive, but most of them will have other pluses as well. So we really do want to focus on improving our education. And I think one of the best ways that we discovered from Ghana, one of the best policies, is actually going to be this foreign language curriculum. There we go. We add foreign languages to the national curriculum. By equipping our citizens with the skills to communicate with the international community directly, they are able to do business with and offer services to a global market. So patriots will not be happy by this, but it's relatively cheap and improves our education, it improves our international trade, which is good for the economy, and it increases our foreign investment, which is good for the economy and our infrastructure, and it increases tourism, and it makes the youth happy and the capitalists happy. Overall, this is a very, very solid policy, in my opinion. So, yeah, this is going to serve our purposes a lot. Patriots will be unhappy, and there are quite a few patriots, but I'm afraid they're just going to have to bite the bullet there. Let's move on to the next turn. Woo! Credit rating upgraded. Oh no, an airplane crashed. That sucks. We do only have 13% of the vote right now, though. That is a little on the concerning side. Just a wee little bit. Just a wee little bit. But we'll see what we can do. 85 political capital now. You'll definitely notice that we are generating less. Only 54 from us and 27 from our cabinet. We're losing steam, but we're trying to make some big sweeping changes early while we have a chance. Nothing too crazy, of course. We don't want to get assassinated. How about minority representation measures? This isn't going to be a bad idea. Well, is it even necessary, though, really? Maybe. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. It's relatively cheap. Democracy and racial tension go, shift in the direction we kind of want. Ethnic minorities, there aren't going to be very many of them in this country, but we want them to be a little happier. But also liberals will be happy. Racial tension is an issue. Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be okay. We'll do this, and later, if we so desire, we might just get rid of it altogether. But for the short term, I think a little bit of minority representation could do some good. All right, let's see, what else can we do? Let's see, back to the economy. Small business grants is actually quite good. A little more expensive, but again, has a very good impact on the GDP. 5.03%, socialism membership goes way down. Again, not very important, but, relevant factors. And the self-employed will be very, very happy. In fact, anything that increases our self-employed membership is going to be quite good for us because we're going to be creating quite a few of them. I like that idea. Yeah, that seems good. But that's going to have a good impact on our GDP eventually. We do need to impact things like these power blackouts and the poor transport links, though, if we really want to start having our economy take off. And the GDP, yeah, this is all being affected by terrible infrastructure. One of the things we can do to improve that would be to, for example, improve our roads and so on, or our toll roads, or we could start relying a little bit more on some mass transit. If I were to go to transport here, we do not have rail subsidies yet. Egypt is weird in the sense that this is one of the few countries I've ever played that doesn't start with rail subsidies. So there it is, in all its glory. Let's go ahead and pick it up. This does impact unemployment, which is good. Yeah, all right. Urban love it. Good. Rail usage goes up, which basically means that car usage goes down. Infrastructure goes up. All right, that's what I wanted to see. Do we want to max this out? Or is that too much? That does cost us quite a bit of money. How about we just have like 19 billion? 19 billion seems reasonable. That's about a 6% boost to the infrastructure. Yes. Yes, all in all, I do think that this will work just fine. All right, let's pass them rail subsidies. Okay. Yes. Now, one of the reasons that's important is because it does have a very, very long implementation delay. Very long. So if you're going to do railroads at all in Egypt, then I feel like you need to pick this up pretty early on, or else you're not going to have any real benefit from it. All right, focusing back on, let's see, what are some of my other priorities? We do care a lot about education. There are some very good early game policies to pick up. There's one. Okay, adult education subsidies. That's a very good one. All right, a little less than 2 billion. Relatively cheap. We can afford that. Skill shortage goes down a lot. Very important. Productivity goes up. Education goes up. Muchly worth it. We definitely want to get rid of the skills shortage because it is having a huge drain on the GDP. Same with this uncompetitive economy, which last time we had a hard time getting rid of, but, we'll see how that works out for us this time. We'll see. Along similar lines, though, for the economy, and for infrastructure on that matter, actually, we could go for the intellectual property rights. Now, this is something I didn't learn about until pretty late in our Ghana playthrough, but it's actually quite good. Let's go ahead and pass it. What happens is foreign relations goes up, which actually is important for the border tensions. Foreign investment goes up, which is good for our infrastructure and dealing with those two events. Technology goes up, which is always good. The poor are a little less happy, because for some reason. I could explain it, but, I don't feel like it. Basically, that's pretty good. That does some good things for us. Now, the poor are unhappy, but I think we can probably improve that for them. Do we want more welfare? Or are there other things here in public services? Actually, the agro-dealer networks isn't a bad idea. I don't think this impacts the poor directly, but I do believe that about half of our population is considered rural. Is that correct? Yeah, 53%, and this definitely will have an impact on them, so that should earn me quite a few votes. And I do need to be worried about getting re-elected in Egypt because, it's not looking good for us quite yet, but it is only the first year after all. So agricultural efficiency goes up, which is going to be good for a few different reasons. Rural will be happier, and they'll make more money, and the self-employed will be happy, and it's relatively cheap. So why not? Unfortunately, though, we are out of political capital, and we are out of time. As always, I will be dividing these videos up into year-by-year bases, so some videos will be very long, depending on what I'm trying to do in a year, and some will be very short, depending on how little there is to do. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. It's worked pretty well for us thus far. I'm excited about this playthrough. I certainly hope you are too. I do see this being as very challenging, but I think we are up to the task. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment with your suggestions, and of course, subscribe for my future content. My name has been Pravus with Democracy 3 Africa, and I will see you guys next time.